The gymnasium pulsed with music and laughter, a kaleidoscope of proud parents, snapping photos while their graduates spun across the decorated floor in celebration. But in the far corner, beneath a drooping string of silver balloons, 17-year-old Maya Richards sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, watching the joy unfold from behind a carefully constructed wall of composure. She had practiced this face in the mirror 100 times. The slight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, the casual way she pretended to check her phone every few minutes, as if she were busy with important messages, rather than scrolling through the same 3 apps over and over just to have something to do with her trembling hands. This was supposed to be one of the best nights of her life. 4 years of late-night study sessions, anxious exams, and dreaming about this exact moment had all led here, to this culmination of her high school journey. But as she watched her classmates wrapped in their parents' embraces, being spun around the dance floor to songs they'd memorized together, Maya felt the familiar hollow ache settle deeper into her chest. Her mother had promised she'd be here. She'd promised this time would be different, that nothing would keep her away from her daughter's graduation celebration. But the empty chair beside Maya told a different story, just as it had at every school concert, every awards ceremony, every milestone that mattered. Maya's mother worked 3 jobs, trying to keep their small apartment and put food on the table after. Maya's father had left when she was 6. It wasn't abandonment born of cruelty, but of crushing responsibility and mental health struggles he couldn't overcome. Maya understood this intellectually, had forgiven him years ago for something she recognized wasn't truly his fault. But understanding didn't fill the empty spaces at moments like these. Her mother had texted 2 hours ago, a waitressing shift that was supposed to end at 6 had turned into a double, because someone called in sick, and she couldn't afford to say no. The message had ended with 3 heart emojis and the words, "So proud of you. Baby, I'm sorry." Maya had responded with a thumbs up because what else could she say? It wasn't her mother's fault either. It was just their reality. Around her, the celebration continued its beautiful, painful crescendo. Principal Henderson was attempting some kind of outdated dance, move that had a cluster of students laughing and filming. The DJ transitioned into a slow song, and the energy shifted as parents pulled their graduates close for sentimental sways across the floor. Maya felt her throat tighten. She could handle the upbeat songs, could convince herself she preferred to sit and observe the chaos. But the slow songs, the ones designed for this exact parent-child moment, those were harder to armor herself against. She was about to excuse herself to the bathroom, to hide in a stall until this particular torture ended, when a shadow fell across her table. Maya looked up, expecting perhaps a well-meaning teacher, about to offer sympathetic words she didn't want, but instead found herself looking at David Chen, father of her classmate Sophie. She knew him peripherally. He'd been at a few school events over the years, always slightly disheveled, usually running late but present. Sophie's mother had passed away from cancer when Sophie was in 8th grade, and David had been raising her alone ever since. "Hi, Maya," he said, his voice gentle but not pitying, which she appreciated. "I noticed you sitting here, and I wondered if you might do me a favor." He glanced toward the dance floor where Sophie was laughing with a group of friends. "Sophie's over there having the time of her life with her buddies, and I'm feeling a bit like a awkward dad with no one to dance with. Would you mind terribly keeping me company for one song? I promise I'm not a completely terrible dancer, though my daughter would probably dispute that claim." Maya blinked, momentarily stunned by the request. She could see what he was doing, could recognize the kindness wrapped in the fiction of needing her help. Part of her wanted to refuse, to protect her pride, to insist she was fine alone. But there was something in his eyes, not pity, but understanding, a recognition of loneliness from someone who knew its shape intimately, that made her throat constrict with unexpected emotion. "I'm not much of a dancer either," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then we'll be perfectly matched in our mediocrity," David said with a warm smile, extending his hand. Maya took it, allowing herself to be gently guided to the edge of the dance floor, not in the center where everyone would notice, but in a quieter spot near the side. As they began to sway to the music, David maintained a respectful distance, his approach more paternal than formal, like a father teaching his daughter to dance in the living room. "Sophie tells me you're headed to State University in the fall," he said conversationally. "Engineering program, right? That's incredible, Maya." You should be really proud of yourself. Thank you, Maya said, and then, because his genuine interest seemed to invite honesty, she added, my mom wanted to be here tonight. She really did. She's working a double shift. I know she did, David said without hesitation. I've met your mom a few times at school events. She lights up when she talks about you. You can see how proud she is written all over her face. He paused, then continued more quietly. Being a single parent is one of the hardest things in the world. There's never enough time, never enough money, never enough of yourself to go around. But the love is always there even when they can't be. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes and she blinked rapidly, trying to maintain her composure. It's not fair to her that I feel sad when I know how hard she works. You can feel both things at once, David said gently. You can understand why she couldn't be here and still be sad about it. Those feelings don't cancel each other out and they don't make you ungrateful. They make you human. He gave her a reassuring smile. When Sophie's mom died, Sophie felt guilty every time she was happy, like joy was a betrayal of her grief. It took a long time for her to understand that she could miss her mom and still laugh at a stupid joke, could honor her mother's memory and still live her own life fully. The song was ending, but David didn't immediately step away. Instead, he placed both hands on Maya's shoulders, looking at her with the kind of fatherly warmth she hadn't experienced in more than a decade. You're going to do amazing things, Maya, and your mom is going to be cheering you on every step of the way, even when she can't physically be there. Don't let these moments diminish your accomplishments or make you feel less than. You're graduating with honors. You're going to a great school, and you've done all of that while understanding and supporting your mother through her struggles. That takes tremendous character and strength. Thank you, Maya whispered. And this time she couldn't stop the tears that spilled down her cheeks. Thank you for asking me to dance. Thank you for accepting, David replied, pulling a clean handkerchief from his pocket and handing it to her. Now I'm going to make you one promise if you'll let me. When you walk across that stage at university graduation in 4 years, if your mom can't make it for whatever reason, you call me. Sophie and I will be there. And I'll make sure you have someone in that audience, cheering embarrassingly loud when they call your name. Deal? Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat, as David gave her shoulder one final squeeze and headed back toward the refreshment table. Sophie appeared at his side, having apparently witnessed the entire exchange. She walked over to Maya and without a word pulled her into a tight hug. My dad's the best, Sophie said simply. And you deserve to be celebrated tonight. So do you, Maya replied, returning the embrace. Then let's celebrate together, Sophie said, pulling back with a grin. Come dance with us. The whole crew is over there, and Jenna is attempting to teach everyone some TikTok dance that absolutely none of us can do. It's hilarious, and you need to witness this disaster. For the first time that evening, Maya felt herself genuinely smile. She allowed Sophie to pull her into the group of their classmates, where she was welcomed immediately with excited shouts and encouraging cheers. As she attempted the complicated dance, steps and laughed at their collective failure, Maya caught David's eye across the room. He raised his cup of punch in a small salute and she nodded back, a gesture of gratitude and acknowledgement. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of music, laughter, and the kind of joy that comes from being surrounded by people who care. When the DJ announced the last song of the night, Maya found herself in a group circle with a dozen classmates, all of them swaying and singing along to a song about new beginnings and endless possibilities. She thought about her mother, probably just finishing her shift, exhausted but already planning how to make up for missing tonight. She thought about David's kindness, the way he had seen her isolation and responded with such grace and understanding. She thought about the future waiting for her, full of challenges and opportunities in equal measure. As the final notes faded and the lights came up, Principal Henderson called everyone to the center of the floor for one last group photo. Maya found herself squeezed between Sophie and another classmate, David standing just behind them with the other parents who had stayed until the end. When the photographer counted down and everyone shouted, "Graduates," Maya smiled genuinely, knowing that this photo would capture something true, not the lonely girl sitting in the corner, but the young woman who had been seen, included, and celebrated. 2 weeks later, Maya received a card in the mail. Inside was a photo from that night, David and Maya mid-dance, both of them smiling. On the back, in neat handwriting, were the words, "For your college dorm room," a reminder that you are never alone, And that kindness is everywhere if we're brave enough to accept it. Proud of you. David and Sophie Chen. Tucked inside was also a small gift card to the university bookstore with a note saying, "For textbooks or coffee, whichever seems more essential." Maya placed the photo on her desk, where it would eventually make the journey with her to college, to her first apartment and beyond. Whenever she looked at it, she would remember the night a single father, dealing with his own grief and challenges, took the time to make sure one lonely girl didn't feel invisible. She would remember that sometimes the most profound acts of kindness come from those who understand pain intimately, who choose to reach out across the distance and offer connection to someone who needs it. And she would remember that family isn't always defined by blood or presence at every event, but sometimes by the unexpected moments of grace that remind us we're part of a larger human community, bound together by our shared struggles and our capacity to care for one another when it matters most.